So do you like actually think the Snyderverse is dead?
Oh, so dead.
Ready?
Hi.
Hi.
Wow, that's no good.
Hey everybody, it's Hannah Saulic, the head of video, here with Sean O'Connell, our managing editor, and we had to hop on because there is some major DC news, which is that Wonder Woman 3 is reportedly dead on the ground. Sean, what did you think when you first saw that?
Well, it feels like the beginning of the end, right? It's the first block to fall, the first domino to sort of tumble over in what will lead to, I think, this DC reboot, which we've been sort of hinting at, and I've been hearing a couple of people talking about it, but this was the first bit of news that felt like,
confirmed your theory. Yeah, because we made a video about this a couple weeks ago. That wasn't the point of the video, but it just kind of came up in conversation because I was talking about, there's surely no world in which they're not going to use Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, and you were like, well...
Well, because if you think about it, the longer that they go trying to keep the same pieces, from the existing universe, without explaining how the universes exist. And again, we didn't know with The Flash how they were going to leave things. Like if it opened up to the multiverse and then all of these characters could have been in one universe if they just moved away from, that the reboot was the way forward. But it left these lingering movies like Shazam! Fury of the Gods and Aquaman 2, essentially, to still be having these characters. But, then you look at some of these other pieces like Momoa teasing this dream DC project, which now people think really could be Lobo. Yeah, right, exactly. And so if you're taking the guy who plays Aquaman and potentially letting him play a different character, that again suggests a reboot.
Is to be or not to be, not both.
I mean, is it though?
Well, okay, so we're gonna get into this, but let's give a little bit of context for people who might not have read the Hollywood Reporter article, and then we'll kind of go deeper into why you think the Snyderverse is dead and talk a little bit more about some of those things you just mentioned. But so basically what happened, according to the Hollywood Reporter, is that they use some interesting language, which is why I'm going to push back slightly on just saying 100% Snyderverse is dead. These actors aren't being used anymore. So they said it's considered dead in its current incarnation. So basically what happened is Patty Jenkins submitted the treatment for the project, and WB apparently told her, quote, the project, well, it's not a quote, it's the quote from the Hollywood Reporter, and their sources said, the project as it stood did not fit within the new but still unfolding plans. And then they say that people have said that no decision has been made about next steps, which is interesting considering, and this will kind of get into your point, but a day before the Hollywood Reporter article came out, Gal Gadot tweeted, and she said, a few years ago, it was announced that I was going to play Wonder Woman. I've been so grateful for the opportunity to play such an incredible, iconic character. And more than anything, I'm grateful for you, the fans. Can't wait to share her next chapter with you. So there's two ways this, or I guess three ways this can kind of be interpreted. One is that she tweeted this thinking not really being in the loop on whether or not Warner Brothers was gonna,
Sure. She just randomly decided today would be a great day.
Well, or if she knew Patty submitted
play.
this today and they're meeting with DC, this is happening. I'm going to get ahead of this without thinking maybe she jinxed it. I don't know.
Imagine that.
I'm superstitious, so I would not have tweeted that, Gal. But there's that interpretation of just she was out of the loop, and this is alluding to maybe she thought there was going to be an announcement the next day that was the opposite of what happened. But you think this is her saying goodbye?
Oh, yeah, 100%. This feels like a farewell.
But then why does it say can't wait to share her next chapter with you?
In a way, that means that she's stepping back and joining the fans, and she can't wait to watch the future of the character move forward, but without her.
I pray that isn't true.
I mean, it's the phrasing right before it where because again, I do not believe that this was a haphazard random, I'm going to tweet that a few years ago. If it was hey, on this day in whatever year, I got told I was going to be playing Wonder Woman, and boy, has it changed my career, and that's why this day is super important to me. Then I'd be like,
maybe
all right,
she
well,
was
that
just
makes sense.
feeling sentimental because she knew Patty was going into pitch or like submit the treatment.
All right, well, I will leave the door open a crack to say that
No, but you're
could
probably
be
right.
possible.
Yeah.
The way that it's worded seems like closure to me. It seems like she was
was probably given a
news.
heads up. Yeah.
Yeah, she got wind of the news that Patty's treatment was not going to be part of what James Gunn and Peter Safran are planning. And she wanted to say goodbye and thank you. And so that tweet reads to me like goodbye and thank you.
Can't say goodbye.
But then let's talk about how. Okay, so I had been hearing too, and again, this is where we get into a little bit of the grain of salt, because I've got a couple of sources who tell me some certain things, and they have been very correct in predicting a few of the things that have been talking about a few of the things that have happened, including like release date shifts, and then specific plot points. And they told me about a week ago that Henry is out at the DC in the DC universe, and that the plans moving forward for his Superman were not going to come to pass. And it makes me sad for Henry for various reasons, because he went out and did this press tour in a sense for Enola Holmes 2 and had to field the question about Superman from every journalist essentially, and he sold the narrative of I'm back. And so I don't know if it's the Black Adam box office, which despite what The Rock tries to tell us,
technically he'll
wasn't.
be back for the next, however many months till The Flash comes out. I guess he's not lying.
Correct. He's not lying. And I guess you could even say like he was right in saying I'm back in this one scene, like I did come back for a mid-credit cameo, but yeah, I heard, like I said, about a week ago that Henry's out. And so I don't know if this is because James Gunn and Peter Safran are getting closer to revealing the full plan, because we know they're going to pitch it to David Zaslav soon, but it more and more, these are like signs popping up that are pointing to, like, if Gal's tweeting that she's thank you for the time with Wonder Woman, and I'm hearing rumors that Henry's out, it's starting to feel like they're moving in a different direction.
I don't think they're interested in sharing this world.
Do you still think that there's a possibility for any sort of like multiverse situation with any of these characters or actors in what James Gunn is planning? Or like, do you think that it's just like after Aquaman 2, we're done, goodbye?
Well, what makes it hard is that you have the Matt Reeves, bit that's happening, right? And so that proves that there could be other existing universes with these characters, and that there isn't a one timeline the way that there is with the MCU, let's say, because DC
now
has
the MCU has like a million timelines theoretically.
It does. They're getting complicated, but like, and I even hate, like, I know that we had to call this like, is the Snyderverse dead? But like, and Zack's fingerprints were on it very early, and especially in terms of this casting. But when we talk about a reboot, we're talking about rebooting like all of these other projects that didn't necessarily fall under Zack's, universe, including like Shazam, and what's going to happen with Harley Quinn that Margot Robbie's playing, and
like Peacemaker. Like, are they not going to do a season 3? Like,
that's a great question. Is Gunn going to almost pick and choose a few of the things that stay? But then with Peacemaker, God, this is so confusing. With Peacemaker, they had the Justice League show up, and it was Zack's characters.
Yeah.
So you're right. I didn't even think about Peacemaker and what they do for season 2. The continuity is so effed in the DC universe. It's just insane that you would almost do have to say, like, hard reboot. Everything that happened didn't happen. We're moving forward. But then what are you building towards? Are you giving us a brand new Superman, a brand new Batman, and a brand new Wonder Woman? Does that affect what Matt Reeves is doing with Robert Pattinson? How does it connect? And we don't know until Gunn announces the plan, but it raises so many more questions than answers.
Yeah, and I mean, to be optimistic for a minute, just thinking about like James Gunn and his tone and like some of his Marvel projects in addition to the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, like he is very referential, and like I could almost see a world in which like whatever their DC plan is with their characters, like might just be not like a completely separate reboot, but just like this is a new timeline, like these characters like made like, because he's making like Batman jokes in the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, and like Peacemaker's filled with references to Aquaman and stuff, and I could see a world in which like if there's some sort of way, because I feel like they're gonna have to well, no, they're not going to have to. But if they use the Flash, which is opening up the multiverse, as sort of a jumping off point for like what's next for DC, because I think Aquaman 2 is after the Flash, but like who cares? Like you could almost say like this is a different timeline. That timeline is over there and it exists, and like maybe a couple characters in this new timeline are aware of that timeline, but like that's not a thing we're gonna continue to explore anymore. Like that's just over there.
Right.
But like
Sure.
you know, like they could still make jokes about Jason Momoa and like maybe still have, to your point, like pick and choose some of the people that have this like awareness. I don't know. That's just an idea, but like yes, it does seem that the world of like, oh, maybe we'll get another Justice League with Henry Cavill as Superman and Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman is probably not gonna be where they're focusing, especially because James Gunn likes to pick more off the beaten path characters, and with all this talk of like Jason Momoa and Lobo, and like I could see him more starting to build that world, exploring people that we just haven't seen on the big screen in live action before.
For sure. And it's why it's a little bit surprising that like where does Blue Beetle fall in this? Is it just a project that was
Forgot about Blue Beetle.
advanced, but we don't know where it's going? And then at the same time, like, I guess it was the previous regime that made this decision, but then you nixed, you know, Batgirl as well too. Like those decisions that were made in the transition of who's leading DC are very perplexing. And I don't know if there's any fallout from that or if you just leave it the way it is. So there's comic precedence for this, right? Like DC did an entire universe reboot and they called it the New 52. And it essentially gave new origin stories, although they were close to the original origin stories, for all their main characters. And you're right. Like there is something that could happen in the Flash where you could just be like, now we're into this new universe, this new thread, and it's focusing on other existing characters, but you're still going to see some of the familiar ones that you love, and they're just going to be played by different people. There's a way to sell it. You can sell it to the fans. We're talking about the fact that James Gunn and Peter Safran stepped into a situation where they either had to untangle everything they'd been handed or just, okay, so you know when like you have a big knot, you have like a big knot in the middle of something, right? Like whether it's like an extension
happens to my hair all the time.
All right, well, so maybe I don't know this. I've never had long hair. Is it easier to just snip it and start over?
Oh, no, you just got to kind of rip it out.
Oh, well,
and get rid of it.
Feels like instead of ripping it out, they're snipping, and then
people in the comments would be like, "Wow, you should not do that to your hair." But
it's probably not healthy.
You're probably right.
It feels like they're cutting it off. It feels like they're cutting the knot out and not trying to untangle it, because untangling
there's too much to untangle,
really,
and you would be building on creative visions of other really strong creative voices, and that's not James Gunn's style. Like he's gonna do James Gunn, not James Gunn's version of Zack Snyder plus James Wan plus Patty Jenkins.
Right. So there's one other bit of take it with a grain of salt things that I saw, which again is going to be one more sign on the wall that we're moving on from what I don't love to call the Snyderverse, but that's what it is being referred to as right now, which is that apparently Aquaman 2 screened, like test screened early. And some people have said on social media that Ben Affleck is not in it, but that it was very early stages and there were no end credits scenes attached, and that, you know, Affleck could potentially still be part of that end credits scene for Aquaman 2, which again would be similar to putting Henry Cavill in Black Adam, like teasing something that never happens. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's interesting too, because like Aquaman comes out after The Flash, and in that Hollywood Reporter article, they were mentioning, like they basically were kind of like, hey, The Flash isn't locked yet, which means like it's not like they can still make changes. And so I wonder if they're waiting to see if whatever James Gunn and Peter Safran are gonna, you know, announce to David Zaslav, if there's a way to sort of adjust The Flash to like either make The Flash and Aquaman more of like a concrete end to this chapter, or like some sort of like, I don't know, but I wonder if like maybe because the whole reason Ben Affleck was back was because of stuff from The Flash, right? Or no?
They could even,
there was a weird thing where like they moved release dates around, and because something wasn't going to come out in time, they thought audiences would be confused by Michael Keaton, so they put Ben Affleck in.
It doesn't matter. If they're taking Ben Affleck out of, if he's not being referenced in Aquaman, and if they're using cameos in The Flash to explain how the DC universe moving forward, so in a way, what they could be doing with The Flash, without even kind of realizing it, is because we've talked a bit about how promoting that movie is going to be a public relations nightmare, right? Like the problems that they have with Ezra and the headlines that come with them.
Mm-hmm.
If they are able to then turn around and market it as this is the movie you have to see to understand where DC is going to go, what fan's going to miss that?
Exactly.
You know, like
Yeah.
they're going to want to go into it and check and see what's happening. Because like I've even heard that there's a Marvel movie coming out in the near future that its ending is going to very much point to.
Is it Quantum Mania?
I will just say that there's a Marvel movie coming out in the near future that is going to very clearly point to the direction of Phase 5 and Phase 6, right? Like when you see the end of this upcoming Marvel movie.
Fantastic forecasting.
It will.
Tell me.
Chris Evans is the Human Torch. So if they start to sell The Flash as, hey, everything changes after this one, you know, like this is going to be the one that moves the DC universe forward a major step.
Or closes it or does something to mark that. I think it's going to be more of like an event type film like you're talking about.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, if Ezra Miller's character is going to go into Michael Keaton's world, then they're explaining right then and there that, you know, there's multiple universes that you can go in and out of. Like they have written themselves an out. They have written themselves the ability to then go down another stream that's just disconnected from the ones that exist. Mm-hmm. And for all we know, that's part of, because there are multiple Ezras in the trailer too, you know, like it feels like they were going in that direction anyway. It now just feels like they have someone else who's ready to pick up the baton from that movie and run with it. And it happens to be James Gunn and Peter Safran. And their decision to pick it up and run from it is not including, in my opinion, the people who were cast in Zack's universe, especially early on. But I don't know what that means for Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and I really don't know what it means for Aquaman. But even at that, it's not like The Flash ever was, because The Flash has been in development for 5 years, right? Yeah. So I'm saying, like, when that script was first put together, it was not put together with the intention of, this is going to be the movie that resets the DC universe.
No, but it was filmed after Snyder Cut was like a thing that was out. Okay. Or like I think it started filming like, but like HBO had said like we're putting out the Snyder Cut, so I wonder if there was some intention to sort of like tidy some things up anyway. But I mean, we don't know. It's speculation. And also just to say, like, we don't know that like James Gunn is going to do any of the things that we just speculated about. No. So we could be completely wrong. And they're expected to meet, the Hollywood Reporter said they're expected to meet with Zaslav next week. So we could potentially be back next week with a whole bunch of news if they decide
we're gonna
to
have to be.
Stuff. Or maybe they'll wait till the new year. I don't know. But
can I get a 30-second platform just to clarify something?
Oh, here we go.
Sure.
Just a quick one. And believe me, the Snyder Cut fans who hate me probably haven't made it this far into the video.
I was gonna say they don't watch us anymore.
They don't watch us anymore. But when I said to them that you should be really happy with the Snyder Cut getting released because of how difficult that was, you know, and that the dream of Zack being able to do his parts 2 and part 3 were going to be incredibly hard to pull off. They turned on me like a pack of wolves, right? Like, but I was just trying to be. You noticed that? Did you see that happen?
I got some DMs about it.
I was just trying to say to them, and I should have realized that like logic doesn't apply in those situations. And I understand because they're very passionate about it, and that's what they wanted. But logic says it's that we were always going to be heading in this direction, right? Like logic says you were not going to be able to continue with that vision because of the amount of creative voices that are heard. And now look at how much turnover you've had at Warner Brothers at the high end. All those people are gone, you know?
Well, at the end of the day, Warner Brothers is a company, and there are decisions that are made by people who are not the ones making these movies. So there's so many factors to consider, and you're totally right. It's like it changes hands so much. It's like you can't logically expect.
And that's and I wore this today to again just stress, you guys don't understand how lucky you were just to get that movie. Like, cherish that movie. They fought so hard. The community fought so hard to get that Snyder Cut released. And you'll always have it. You know, you're always going to have it now in black and white and in color.
And so also, just, all good things must end. You know?
Exactly. So that's the point I wanted to make.
Well done.
Well, the good news is, just more optimistic notes, it doesn't seem like they're touching Batverse, like Matt Reeves' Batverse. Like, he's still writing script for Batman 2, and I think Penguin is in production currently. Wow, I really should have fact-checked myself.
I think so too. No, you're right. But like, again, we barely touched on the TV side, let alone mentioning Peacemaker. But think of the number of things that they have talked about that are supposed to happen on the TV side.
I bet they did.
More Lantern deaths. Come on. Yeah, we just got a proper Green Lantern story, for God's sakes.
Never gonna happen.
What's disappointing is that we had somebody on staff who had an opportunity to potentially go speak to Margot Robbie, who could have asked her a question.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I had the
future.
flu. Should I have given Margot Robbie the flu and potentially have killed? No, I'm still you guys know. I cried, tears.
Yeah. Hannah had a chance to go speak to Margot,
and then the universe was like, karma. I don't know what I did, but
I'm known to be quite vexing.
All right, so listen, we'll be back probably next week, like Hannah mentioned, with a follow-up if major news announcements come out of Peter Safran and James Gunn's delivery of the plan. So make sure that you don't miss any of our DC videos by hitting subscribe and turning on notifications. And thank you so much for following along here on CinemaBlend.